I want to use AQL or learn AQL by looking at my log sources in my demo system in here. How many events do I get per log source? And let's start by using the first keyword, which is called, as you sure you know, select. That's a keyword. And you need to specify what are the thing that you are searching for. And the one that I'm interested in this case is called device type. You'll see where I get that information in a second. And you need to specify the other keyword that has to be on every search is from. And then the name of the database. We have two databases in Curator. The logs is called events database, all flows. This particular case is event. So how do I get to know what properties I can search? Well, if you Google these words, event flow and CMAC fields for AQL, you'll get to this document. And here are the fields that you can use for those searches. And we're interested in log sources type that we have, and that's where we use that device type. Very good. So if we hit search here, we'll see that we get the numbers assigned to every log source. Not very useful. I want the actual log source. I know Curator stores this for efficiency, gives every log source a number, but I'm interested in the name because the number doesn't tell me much. Well, we need to use an AQL function, built-in function. There are also custom functions, but these are built-in. Log source type name is the name of the function. I'll show you where those are, where you can find information about those in a second. But if I were to run the same search with just these, oh, this is more useful. I get the name of the actual log source, and I can click here. Most of them are health metrics. Looks like almost all the one. You see that there are different names in there, right? Now, where do I get the names of the function that I can use? Well, there's a document here. If you Google AQL, let me scroll all the way to the top, AQL query or Arial query language guide, you get to this document, you use the latest version of it, and then in the index in here we need to look for functions. And notice that there are data calculation functions, aggregation functions for grouping things, data retrieval. That's what we actually are doing, retrieval. So we go to page 24, and here we have all the functions for that and their explanation. And the one that we are using is log source type name. And you go here to page 32 to get the details of it, right? That's how we get to know that. And so this search is beginning to get better, but having repetitions of all these things is not very useful. Besides, this name is not very useful. So you can rename every one of the columns in your searches by putting the word as and then put the name. For example, logs source name. Save yourself some trouble, especially in the beginning. Don't use space for the names of these because you need to work with colon, double colon, semicolon, single quotes and double quote rather. Sorry. Let's leave that for the end and use underscore instead of white spaces. So if I were to run these like so, I'll get a more descriptive name. Obviously, this as is optional. If I were to run it like this, it will give the exact same result, but I think it's more legible if you put here as, right? Now, let's see that I don't want to have all that repetition of all these, 1,000 and something pages. I want you to count those and give me how many of those events I get for every one of those log sources, because here we have every instance that every log that we are getting from Helmetric. Give me a total of those. Well, for that, what we need to do is add another column in here, and after the name of the first column, we're going to put a comma, and we are going to specify we're going to call a function that will count those. And obviously the function is called count, and you know where to look for those functions if you want. And then you give I'm going to give this column a name. Again, I prefer to put the AS here. Okay. I'm going to put my counter, and I'm not using the word counter because that's a reserved word. So I'm going to name this my counter. If I were to run this search like that, then that's actually better. I get, only one instance, but I get the total number of system notification logs that I actually got. If I want to get all the devices with the counting of the events that I have, I need to use an aggregation keyword. And if the aggregation word is group by, and we're going to put, I want to group them by the device type. If I were to type that and hit search, what I'm going to get is, okay, these are, not just one, but I get every one of those that have been producing logs in here. Notice by default, every search is 5 minutes. I can also use the group by, this aggregation function, by the actual name that I gave to the column. If I put here log source name, the look ahead also helps me there. I'm going to get the same result. Let's do some sorting. Let's say I want to sort this by ascending or descending. So after the group by, we can do here order by. And we need to give the name of the actual column as we gave it here before. So it's going to be order by, sort them by, my counter. Here the look ahead is helping me out. If I were to run this, they are here on ascending number. If I want this in descending number, I use the keyword DSC as in descender, and I have it, the one that has the most log sources on the top. Say that you don't want all these, you want the first, the top 3. You can use the word limit 3 and hit search, and you get the, well, the reason I was having that problem is I was interfering with this with my AQL search in here. I have here 10,000. So it was actually giving me everything that I have. Once I remove the result limit from this field, and I put limit 3, I got the top 3 here. Let's say we want to do some filtering in here, and that's what we're going to be using the keyword where. Well, in order for me to do that, I'm going to add another column in here. So I'm going to put, as we did before, a comma, and I'm going to put device type. So I want to see the device type. There are some things I don't want to show. I'm going to remove the limit in here, and I'm going to hit search. That's going to remind me the name of the device type, right? So let's say that I'm not interested in health metrics, SIM audit, and SIM generated. So these are the 3 device types that I want to filter. I'm not interested in those. So let's eliminate one by one, and then we are going to be eliminating several. So right after we put the name of the database, which is here events for logs, we're going to put the where clause, okay? And we're going to say, I don't want the device type, it's right here, when the device type is not, and this is the keyword for that, get me the health metrics out of here. So I'm going to put 368. Let's see if I got this right. And I click here, search. And boom, that took that guy out. But let's say that I'm interested in getting all these other 2 also out. I don't want the system one. I want the other ones. Well, I need to put them into a simple list. And to do that, I'm actually going to remove these. I'm going to put between parentheses 368, and this other one is 105, and the other one is 67. And let's say that I don't want this asset profiler either. 267 is the other one. And the word I'm going to use here on the filter is a where device type, and I'm going to say not in, and it's going to be this list. So this, if I got this right, this should eliminate all those log sources from the list, and here we are. That's a where condition is a filter. Your filters in here can even be more complex. I can add in here an and say, for example, device type different than, let's take out this 321. Type 321 and hit search, and boom, that one is also, obviously it's easier to put the 321 in here. I'm just showing that you have all the logical operators that you want to put in here in the where. What more can we show here? Also, very simply, if you want to specify the time frame, remember every time you run this is the last 5 minutes by default. If I put here last, you can put, for example, 24 minutes or hours or whatever, right? Specify the time frame that you're doing your search. Another keyword that is important to know is the word having, and that's another filter, but this filter is filters on after you have done the grouping. So this one, the where, has for on the entire search, and the having is filtering on the actual thing that you are grouping this by, right? So let's say that we group this, actually leave it group by the log source name, but let's say that we want in here, give me the log sources that have about 1,000. I don't want these lower ones. I want the ones that are about 1,000. So after that grouping, I will put having, right? And then what's the variable that we gave to the counter here? It's my counter. So we're going to put here my counter greater than 1,000. Let's see if I got this one right. And we have filtered only those that are. So that's the how you use the having. So one more thing to finish this crash course on AQL is let's talk about double quotes and single quotes, because that can be confusing. Remember, I told you save yourself some grief by specifying these things with underscore instead of spaces. Well, let's say that I use this, I want to change this, my counter, I want this to be my counter Let me actually simplify this search a bit, clear a few things. So I'm looking at I eliminate the having and the wheres and all that. I'm going to talk about quotes and double quotes. So I told you to avoid some grief by not using spaces on the name of the column that you are selecting. But let's say that you need to. Well, let's say I want to call this log source name with spaces in between. Well, for me to do that and to have this treated as a single entity, I need to put the name of the alias for the name of the column in double quotes. But now in here, this is the part that is confusing. I need to do the same, but between single quotes, not double quotes. If I were to run that search, I don't have any problem. The name is like so, but this is the part that I say avoid some grief by not using spaces, use underscores, and then use double quote for the name of the column. And when you're using that alias in the grouping, you need to use single quote. Sometimes you will need to use the single quote to specify literals. Like for example, let's say that I want from all these log events, the only ones that the source IP is the source of the curator box. So I type here, I'm going to put a where as a filter, a where keyword. I'm going to put source I'm going to put source address is also, yeah, source IP or source address. And I'm going to put here equal, and I need to specify the IP address in here in between single quotes. See if I got this right. If I run here, it's only going to give me those that are coming from my curator box. Well, I failed to keep this under 15 minutes. I have other tutorials in my, remember in the video description of every video, link to a public box folder. There is a PDF that has an index of all my videos. There are a bunch of other tutorials that go into more details. But if you only have 15 minutes and you want to learn the basics of AQL and you don't have any database background, I hope this video can be useful to you.